One more tower, this is experimental 998 Romeo Victor at 25 right, ready for takeoff. Like a right downwind departure with a circle over the runway at about 3,000, over the airport at about 3,000 feet.
Terminal 998 Romeo Victor, looking for tower right, group winds 180 at 10, runway 25 right, clear for takeoff. And are you going to be orbiting over the airport at 3,000 feet or higher?
That's affirmative. 8 Romeo Victor will be orbiting the airport at 3,000 feet or higher.
Experimental 8 Romeo Victor, how long will you be? What altitude? How high are you going to go?
8 Romeo Victor will be between 3,000 and 5,000, and I would estimate 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, Romeo Victor.
8 Romeo Victor is good to go, 25 right?
So 8 Romeo Victor, affirmative, runway 25 right, clear for takeoff.
Roger, 8 Romeo Victor, clear for takeoff, 25 right.
This is it.
Hello and welcome. My name is Matt Dralle and we're here in Livermore, California at the Livermore Airport in my hangar. Today we're going to talk about the RV8 that I built that I affectionately named Ruby Vixen. I spent quite a few hours building it and flying it now, and she's a pleasure to fly. My dad was a private pilot, and we had a Piper Cub, and as soon as my feet would reach the pedals, he started teaching me how to fly. And I got my private pilot's license in 1986 in Sacramento, California, and in about 52 hours, over a 3-week period, I got my private pilot's license. And I currently have about 1,000 hours, about half of which is in RVs, all tailwheel, and I have a significant amount of time in Piper Cubs, Cessna 140s, Aranca Champions, and Cetabrias as well. So I've flown lots of different airplanes, and the RV is by far the best flying plane of all of them. It's just a pleasure to fly it, so it's been pretty fun.
I'm Katie Dralle, Matt Dralle's wife, and constant support during the build process and flying. So Matt had completed and test flown the RV8 before we met. And so the plane that we've worked on together is the RV4 that we have at home. And then obviously all repairs and maintenance. So I am part of that crew. When I met Matt and he said that he was a pilot, I had never been in a small plane. I had never known any other pilots. I'd only flown commercially. I had no idea what I was in for. And I think it was our third date. We flew to Big Bear, and it was unreal. I did not come from an aviation family at all. We are people of the land and sea, so I was not expecting to spend any time in the air, and least of all expecting that I would, try to learn to fly on my own in a 140 and solo and get all those experiences of feeling confident, behind the yoke, so that if the need be, that I'd be prepared for whatever we encounter. But it's amazing. I mean, it's just, you can't help but be incredibly grateful for that perspective and just how phenomenal it is. And it's fun. It's just a great hobby. It's a great adventure. And I feel really lucky that it's something that we get to devote our time to, our fun time.
What made you choose a Vans Aircraft RV8 as your project?
Well, kit quality for one, and the kit completeness, and the value of the kit, and the performance of the finished aircraft certainly was a deciding factor. And I made several trips up to Oregon to visit the Vans factory, and I got a ride in the original RV4 by Dick Van Grunsven himself. That was about 1988, I think, and I was hooked. One ride and I had my checkbook out, so it was pretty fun.
When did you start building the RV8, and what was the build timeline?
I got the first kit, the tail kit, in June of 2008. The engine and prop arrived in January of 2009, and the first test flight was May of 2010. And I finally got it painted in October of 2022, about 12 years later. So, and I'm really happy that I waited that long to get it painted, because over 12 years there were a lot of little things that were kind of not quite right and needed tweaking and fixing and stuff. So I had it apart a lot of times, and if it had been painted, that had all those scratches from that disassembly. So I'm really happy I just waited on the paint and flew it around in primer for 12 years. So that was definitely a word to the wise on that. Oh, in the sun? Oh my gosh. Awesome. Wowee.
Oh my god. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
That was the perfect colors, man. Look at this, man. This gold matches those pictures exactly. Unbelievable. Love it.
What do you do at Cascade Customs and Design?
My name's Stephen Bird, and I'm one of the owner-operators here at Cascade Customs and Design. I do the office-y stuff, I paint, a little bit of bodywork, buffing, whatever you need, I kind of can do it all.
My name's Brian Bird. I do everything, bodywork, paint, buff, all of it.
What are your favorite types of projects?
I like big bodywork. I like to make a lot of dust, and then buffing too. Like the last bit's always fun, making something just really shiny.
Favorite type of project? Just outrageously custom, fun, unexpected things. Stuff that nobody else is willing to do. I think that's the most fun because it's the most rewarding in the end.
When painting an experimental aircraft, what steps can builders take to facilitate the painting process? Or conversely, what actions should they avoid to minimize potential challenges?
First and foremost, I think it's really important to pick a paint shop right from the beginning and have an idea who you're going to work with. You know, from there you can start the dialogue early and find out, you know, products and colors and should I bond this on this way or things like that. Because I mean, obviously as an aircraft builder, you want to do as much of it yourself so you feel better about the project, but at the same time you don't want to do needless work and, you know, waste your time and then the body shop gets and has to redo it. So it's good to start all this stuff early, ask what should be done, ask about products to use, you know, and just figure out a way so everything's very linear instead of, you know, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then everyone's just wasting time and money.
I mean, probably the first step's ask for help when you don't know what you're doing, you know, and then it's use products that are good. Don't skimp on your products. Yeah.
What advice would you offer builders to ensure a successful painting process, considering factors such as expectations, paint scheme, color choice, time management, and cost?
Honestly, I wouldn't spend as much time if I was them on the fiberglass and just get it to the paint shop and let the pros do it, because that's usually where a lot of our time comes in, is fixing all their bodywork. I mean, expectations on quality, at least here, I mean, I feel like an owner can have as high as they want. We can accommodate it. I mean, and the other way too, really. But, you know, we'd prefer to do really nice stuff to put our name on. Yeah, cost. I don't know, save some of your budget.
So the best advice I can give is, back to what I was saying earlier, like, talk to a paint shop and find one early. Use good quality products. There's a zillion times we get planes in where a guy started the project, he's super happy about it, he's been building it, and he gets ready to start flying it, because that's the goal, right? You want to get it flying. And then he goes out and he grabs rattle can or vinyl or stickers and just starts putting it all over the plane to cover up those last little bits, because, well, I want to get it flying. But it bites you in the butt later when you got to, like, scrub it all off or make all these fixes, or you use an inferior product and then our high quality stuff goes on there and it wrinkles or blisters, or we have adhesion issues, stuff like that. The other big one is honestly, I think it's a good practice, especially in the RV and the experimental builder world. Get it flying, you know, get it tweaked, get it dialed, and go get it painted. Because the longer you're flying that airplane when it's just raw, you're soaking up all that oil and the grease gets in around all the rivets. And no matter how much we clean and try as a paint shop, inevitably that stuff just keeps weeping out, and it just could, you know, impact the longevity of our product. So stuff like that.
How many hours did it take to complete?
Well, like I said, I started in 2008, and it took me about 2,350 hours over 23 months to build it. And I spent typically about 20 hours on every weekend working on it, and 2 to 3 hours most evenings. And then I test flew it on May 3rd, 2010, just shy of 2 years of building. You can do it. It can be done in a short period of time, but you got to be devoted, and you got to just stick to it and try to work on it a little bit every day. There was always something that needs doing, and just get out in the shop and work on it, and you'll get it done.
Anyone who has ever met him, flown with him, or worked with him will say that he demands excellence. I mean, he uses only the best parts. He does things 100 times till it's perfect. And so knowing that those are the standards that he goes about living his day-to-day, whether it's work or home or hobby, you have so much confidence in that he's not shortcutting. He's not, you know, using burnout fuses or anything that just wouldn't have us as safe as could be. And I think that's important. I think as a spouse, especially not being a pilot myself, it's important to feel super confident in that, you know, they're doing everything to make sure you're safe and they're keeping the plane at tip-top shape. And I really feel like Matt does, and I appreciate that.
Which engine and propeller did you select, and why?
The Lycoming IO390 had just come out when I was doing my engine shopping, which is a 210 horsepower injected motor. And I had mine built by Aerosport Power in Kamloops, Canada. And they did a fantastic job on it. It came out beautiful. I asked them to paint it jet black gloss, and they did. And I had them do the chrome kit, and they put the chrome kit on it, which makes it look really cool. And the valve covers are chrome, the intake's all chrome. And I put a 72-inch Hartzell propeller constant speed prop on it from Vans, the standard one they sell, and no regrets. It's a great propeller. It works good, and I love having a constant speed prop. The climb is great, and it's nice to get it to cruise altitude, and I usually dial it back to about 250 RPM at full throttle, and it's super quiet at that, and the economy's about 10 gallons an hour, and it cruises about 205 miles per hour indicated. The other thing I did too is I had Aerosport Normally they break it in for about 3 hours on the test stand just to make sure it runs. But I had them put an additional 10 hours on the test stand because then it's essentially broken in, and I could just slap it on the front and go flying with no real break-in period, because that had mostly been done on the test stand. So I think it cost an extra $1,000 or something, but peace of mind to just be able to not have to run it at full throttle for the first 10 hours of flying was definitely worth the money and spent. So I would recommend that as a process as well if you have that option. I don't know if Lycoming will do that for you, but certainly Aerosport Power was up for that.
At the time of building, it is my understanding that the Lycoming IO390 was not specifically recommended by Van's Aircraft for the RV8. What, if any, issues did you encounter using a non-standard engine on the RV8?
Well, anytime you deviate from the Van's plans on a part of the plane, you better be ready for some head scratching and some extra building time, because it's a lot of work and you kind of have to engineer those solutions yourself, and it just takes time. But on the 390, it pretty much, the firewall forward kit for the IO360 is almost identical to the IO390, with the exception of the governor for the propeller, which on the 360 is typically mounted on the back, but on the 390 it's up in the front. So all the parts for the control to control the prop governor have to come up and over the top of the cylinders, which there's a bracket, I think, for the RV10 that works pretty well for that. And so I did have a little trouble with the heat from the cylinders kind of melting the casing for the control rod, and I put some heat sleeve over it, which now after about 350 hours I haven't had any trouble with it. So definitely use some heat sleeve on that. Oh, the other thing that's kind of a big deal is that the 390 requires a larger oil cooler, and on my builder's page I call that number out, and to try to mount it on the back of the baffle like the smaller one does, it takes quite a bit of extra engineering to get that to fit and to mount securely, because it's quite a bit heavier than the stock one. It's almost twice the size, but once you do it, it's great, and the cooling is excellent. Even on hot days, I still see about 185 degrees Fahrenheit, which is perfect. And on cool days, it runs about 165, so it's doing a really good job on that. So yeah, the 390 has been a great motor. I really have no complaints with it. It always starts good, and it runs good, and it gives out lots of power. I put the Vetterman 4x4 exhaust on it, which you have to special order from Vetterman, because I don't think Vans carries that, but it sounds so cool with the 4x4, and they say it gives you a little bit extra horsepower, so I like to say I'm getting 215 horsepower out of it. But yeah, the 390, highly recommend. Fits just perfect on the 8. No problems at all.
What kind of performance numbers do you see in your RV8 with the Lycoming IO390 and a constant speed propeller?
Typically, I cruise in an over-squared configuration at 2250 RPM and full throttle. At 7,000 feet, I lean to 10 to 10.5 gallons per hour, keeping the EGTs at or under 1400 degrees. This configuration gives me a 200 plus mile an hour cruise, or true airspeed, when it's cool out. When it gets warmer, it's not quite that good, but typically I bank on 200 miles per hour Well, the other thing that's really nice about the 2250 RPM cruise that you get with the constant speed prop is that it's really quiet. It's amazing the noise reduction that you go from takeoff at 2700 RPM to cruise at 2250 when you dial that propeller back. And so again, and the amount of fuel flow really drops as well. 10 gallons an hour at 200 miles an hour is a pretty good ratio. Pretty darn happy with the Hartzell prop, plus it looks cool on there. So I highly recommend it, and Vans has a great deal on them. No reason not to get one.
What was the hardest part of the overall build?
Well, by far the fiberglass was the hardest part. It's not really hard, it's just kind of time consuming, and it takes a lot of time to set it up and get it right, and it's dirty and you're sanding and it's making your workshop a mess, so it's kind of frustrating. And getting the wingtips to fit was probably the trickiest part, because you just bolt them on there and they tend to kind of warp on the tips, so I had to slice mine down the trailing edge and then kind of squish them a little bit and then drill them back to get it to look good from behind. So that was a lot of work, and it's just a lot more fun to build metal parts. But and it's always frustrating in your mind too, because you think, man, I bought a metal airplane because I want to build metal parts, and then you spend all this time doing fiberglass. The other part that was hard was the bezel that you have to build around the windshield, which you just sort of make out of nothing. You have to kind of just start with raw fiberglass, building it up, and it takes a lot of time and patience, but if you take the time, it can look really, really good. The other thing is, on the plans or over the top of the windshield, they tell you to build up a fiberglass layup of that, which I decided I built a cardboard template first that fit out a kind of file index card weighted material. And then that works out pretty well because it fits nicely on 032 2024, and I just first I got the cardboard to fit just right, and then I transferred that to the 032 aluminum, cut it out, filed it down, just slapped it on there, and it's a lot more rigid, and there's a lot less fiberglass work I had to do. So anytime you can do that, it's a good thing. I have to admit that I did get a crack in my canopy in the rear part right in here, because I tightened the screws too much, so that was $1,000 exercise in futility. But at this point I'm glad I did, just because the second one always comes out way better, and it did, so I'm happy that I spent the time and money to just get it done right. So
how did you stay motivated?
Well, I think the key to that is to do a little bit of something every single day, no matter how small. If you're out in the workshop, your mind's thinking about it and working on the next problem. So I kept mine at home in the workshop as long as I possibly could, so that I had no distractions and I didn't have the excuse, oh, I don't want to drive out to the hangar today. I have no excuse to not walk out to the workshop and get some work done. And so I think a little bit every day is the key to staying motivated, because it always keeps your brain in the process of, what am I going to work on next? And there's always something to work on. 2,350 hours on this was a quick build, by the way, so even on a quick build there's a significant outlay of time to get it built.
What advice would you give other builders starting out?
Well, I would say for me, get a big piece of cardboard and write good enough isn't, and post that in your workshop, and every time you go out the workshop, touch it, because that really is the key to my success. In my opinion, was I never, if I dinged up a skin riveting it incorrectly, I would just throw it away, call up Vans and say, hey, send me another one, and they would, and be inside of a week I could have a good one done. And when it's all, at the time, it's like, well, why should I spend another 3 hours building that? But when you're all done and everything is perfect and straight, you'll be super happy that you spent the time and money to build a good one. So don't be afraid to order extra parts, especially now that the kits are all pre-punched. In the old days, I built an RV4 in the early 90s, and the RV4s were just kind of a materials kit, so you had to lay all the holes out and drill them all, deburr them, and dimple them and all that. So it was a substantial amount of work to redo a particular part. But now, because everything is pre-punched, you get it. You just have to do the filing and dimpling and whatnot. So my advice is, if it didn't come out good, do it again. And when your plane is built and flying, you'll never remember that extra 3 hours you had to spend to get it right.
I feel like a great builder is patient. I feel like you have to know that it's going to take a long, long time. You're going to need support. You're going to need other people to bounce ideas off of as you hit the wall, and you're going to have to just stick with it, and also just never give up, because ultimately you want to be flying and you want to be just enjoying it. But there's always going to be maintenance, and as a spouse, I feel like you have to have patience as well, because there's going to be a lot of weekends, a lot of weeks where you've got to do the maintenance so that you can go enjoy flying, or you've got to do the build to enjoy flying. And it is worth it. It really is worth it at the end. It just takes a really long time to get there, but it's a sacrifice that's worth getting to.
Is there anything you would have done differently?
Well, not really. I don't really have any I wish I had at this point in this build, because as I just mentioned, if there was anything that didn't come out absolutely perfect, I just did it again. So when it's all said and done, I don't have any real regrets about how I built it. It's exactly how I wanted it, and there's no I wish I hads, which I'm pretty proud of.
How did the test flight go, and what surprised you about flying the plane you built?
Well, I went up to Verona, Oregon, and got the RV checkout by Mike Seeger, which was invaluable. Mike's a great guy, super nice, and he's got thousands and thousands of hours in RVs, and he's always got a tip for you. And he's just a super nice guy. It was a fun trip up there, and hanging out with him, talking airplanes and all that. So. Before I test flew, I had access to a decathlon, so I put about 25 or 50 hours on that decathlon, which was nice because it had a constant speed prop as well, which was similar to my configuration. The actual test flight went perfect. I didn't have any issues at all on the test flight, and I just poured the coal to it and took off and flew around the airport about 5 times, I think. Got to about 3,000 feet. And just kind of kept my eyes on all the gauges, the oil temperature, the cylinder head temperatures, and the exhaust gas temperatures, just to make sure that everything was working good. Did a few power on stalls with and without flaps, just to make sure that all that was good. And I did a approach to landing stall to kind of feel how that was going to be to come in. And I called in, I think it was up about 30 minutes. I called in the tower and said, okay, I'm ready to come back. And they sequenced me right into the pattern. I came in, made a really nice landing for my very first landing in an RV. So my test flight was pretty uneventful, fortunately, but I was pretty ready for it, and the time with Mike Seeger was invaluable, and the time in the decathlon was definitely applicable to the look and the feel of the RV series as well. So I would recommend getting at least 25, if not 50 hours in a decathlon or something similar before you do your test flight, just so you're ready as a pilot to handle any kind of things that might happen during that.
I didn't really think I would have an aptitude to fly. I didn't think I would have the ability, but kind of just knowing that it's good as a spouse of a pilot. If you're going to be up there doing, cross-country flights, you should know how to talk to a tower, change the radios, know your altitude, land, like that's a priority. And things happen, and other spouses have been called into action, and I felt like I wanted to get as far as I could. And I feel like I have so much more respect for pilots and what they do, and just how safe you have to be, how much you have to be aware of. And it takes bravery and knowledge and skill. And I mean, it's something I'm super thankful for, just getting the opportunity.
How comfortable do you feel in an RV8?
Well, right now I have about 500 hours in this RV8 and probably about 250 hours in an RV6 as well. So I'm very comfortable flying RVs now, and they're a great cross-country aircraft, and we take the RV8 flying all around, and we flew up to Bend, Oregon, which is about 2.5-hour flight from here. Got it painted in October, so that was a pretty fun trip.
What are your impressions of Matt Dralle's RV8 build? How does it stand out among the other home-built aircrafts you've worked on?
I think a lot of owners don't take full advantage of all the colors that are out there. There's a lot of crazy colors. Most people stick to the basics, you know. But Matt's plane was really nice from the beginning. It's probably by far one of the shiniest planes I've ever seen. It was a good build the whole way through. It was a fun project.
So Matt's project, I think the biggest thing is that Matt had a plan. And Matt had a vision, I think, from day one. And so working with Matt, it was really easy because he wasn't hemming and hawing about a lot of stuff. It was like, this is the red, this is the gold, these are the things I want to have happen. So when it came in, you know, his build was all geared toward that vision. You know, the panels were fit really nice, the gaps were set. It was all just like, come in, it was built, it looked great, and all we had to do was put the icing on the cake.
From the moment I met Matt, I knew that was like his top priority, and finding a place that he would feel comfortable leaving the plane, having them tear it down, actually paint it, and then finding the colors that he wanted. I kind of thought it would be an impossible task. I didn't think we'd be able to find the right place, but when we did, when it was done, and the pride he feels in ownership now it's very satisfying.
Yeah, the controls on the RV8 are just sublime. I mean, it's everything you dreamed flying a P-51 Mustang would be, and it just handles really nice. It does barrel rolls super smooth and easy, and I've done a few loops in it, and it just does it. You don't even have to think about it really. And landing it, I've got it down where I can do wheel landings pretty repeatably now, and looks pretty darn cool, and it's very comfortable to fly. Nothing tricky about it. The only thing is when you touch down and you're kind of on a rollout, you better be ready to work those rudder pedals to keep the tail, to keep the nose going down the runway straight. But really, there's no surprises in an RV. It's just a fun plane to fly, and you get to building because you won't be sorry once you finish it too.
Why did you choose the tandem seating of the RV8 opposed to the side-by-side seating of an RV7 or RV14?
Well, I really like the stick in the right hand and the throttle in the left hand like a fighter plane. And plus also in the RV8, the sides are right here, so your visibility is great out of either side. There kind of is more room in the RV8 per person because just a little bit wider. You don't have a person right here pushed up against you. And then the aesthetics of it, I like to think it sort of looks like a P-51, which is definitely a favorite. There's about 1,609 RV8s flying worldwide, which is a testament to its appeal, certainly. And I'm one of those happy pilots myself, so.
How does your wife, Katie, like flying in the back seat?
The back seat of the RV8 is very spacious and roomy, and the seat, I spent a lot of time making the seats very comfortable back there, so she loves it, really. And I also put a LCD screen in the headrest of the pilot, so there's a GPS map there, and we can play DVD movies on long flights. And the DVD audio is mixed into the headphones with the intercom and the airplane radio, so I think she likes it. She said she likes it, but
I love flying in the RV8. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, the agility, the perspective. I like the low wing perspective and looking at the sky and the clouds above me. I just think it really is just sometimes just supernatural that you're up there and you think, how is this even possible? And it's amazing. It's a great view. It's fast. It's fun. It's such a smooth plane, and it's Matt just did an excellent job with all the finishes, which make it so much more comfortable. We do have an RV6, which is side by side, and so that, starting out in that plane and then moving to the tandem, I actually liked it so much better because it's just so much roomier. I still have all the controls in the back if I ever needed to, be called to action, but I feel like I like having more room, and then I like having your own perspective. You're seeing out of both sides, whereas when you're side by side, you're kind of just really seeing out of your side. And so I've had other people say, oh, I wouldn't want to be in the back seat, but once you're in the air and your tail's up, it's like, yeah, there's someone in front of you, but you'd still have the panel in front of you, and I have a monitor that shows me exactly how high we are, how fast we're going, what our ETA is. So I can still see everything over Matt's shoulders. So I feel like, to me, it's just more comfortable. So I'm grateful for it. I prefer flying in the 8 than the 6. And we've got the great stereo, the heat, everything. So I'm happy. No complaints.
Now that you have a completed paint job and everything is working great, what are your plans?
well, we really want to fly to Mecca, which is the Oshkosh, Wisconsin fly-in, and see if we can get it judged and see if we can maybe bring home a trophy with it.
Matt deserves to get that opportunity to present the plane at the stage where you can get the most recognition and acknowledgement of your efforts among your peers, other builders who can really respect what you've put into it and the detail. Nothing makes me prouder than when we fly into an airport and other pilots are oohing and awing, and they want to know what kind of engine, how fast are you going, what's your gas mileage, all that kind of stuff. And it's just a great opportunity. I think too, we've wanted to go for years just to see all the other planes and the environment, but then to really get a present and hopefully get awarded would be like a cherry on top of just getting to have this every day and then really acknowledging Matt's efforts.
I certainly put a lot of tender love and care into every little nut and bolt and screw, so hopefully the judges will feel the same. And we're going to try to go there in 2024 and see what kind of awards we can pull. Hopefully something. But so that'll be a big long trip. That'll be the longest trip we've ever taken in it for sure. And so that's a bit of pucker factor on that, getting over the Rockies and stuff, but we'll be fine. It handles it fine. It's got a full autopilot, so that helps a lot. Takes the fatigue out of it, and I just got to convince Katie that it's going to be fine. So she's getting there.
Flying in the RV8, it really is surreal. I mean, it's so smooth. You're flying over terrain closer than you've ever been with a perspective you can only get from the air. I've said a number of times that it is ethereal. I mean, you can fly, as the sun's coming down, as the sun's coming up close to the clouds, over the mountains, flying over Yosemite, views you would just never in your life get to see from the ground. And it really is amazing. And then the RV8 offers just the speed that you're getting to locations, the agility, the way Matt's outfitted the plane with the leather, armrests, headrests, the comfortable cushioned seating, everything just accommodates a nice ride. And having the monitor and the headrest so I can see where we're at, what speed we're at, how high we're flying, it just gives me a comfort about what we're doing.
Would you recommend building a RV to anyone interested in an experimental aircraft?
Most certainly. As I mentioned before, Van's Aircraft produces a world-class kit, and they're great to work with, and they ship when they say they're going to ship, and the quality of the materials that you get, the pre-punched skins, and all the material that they fabricate there in Oregon is always top notch, and the kit is a really good value as well. Some other kits that I had looked at early on, they're a lot more expensive and they don't give you as high quality of product, and so I really thought the kit quality is 5-star in my opinion, and the pricing is pretty darn reasonable, and Vance has really prided himself over the last, I guess, 50 years almost on keeping his prices reasonable.
I think flying is incredible. It's just completely amazing. I think everyone should do it. It's nothing to be taken for granted because it is such a privilege. And so we treat it that way. We treat it as a gift that we've, an opportunity, a gift. Every time we go up, we say our prayers and we are grateful for the time in the sky. You have to have patience in your tool belt because it's not a fast process, no matter how much time you can devote to it. I hope it never ends. One day everyone has to put their tie downs down, and I don't want to do that. But for every minute that we have until then, we're going to enjoy it.
You can do it, I guess, is my closing statement on building an RV. If you're even thinking about it, just order that tail kit, get it in your garage, and just order up your tools. And you're gonna love it. It's a super fun plane to build. I mean, I love to fly it, but I have to say that I love building it just as much as flying it as well. So it's kind of a labor of love then and now. So you're never too old to start. So just get on the phone and order your kit today. You won't regret it. Thank you very much.